Could the Denver Broncos do the unthinkable? Could they end up passing on Ashton Jeanty in the first round of the draft? One draft analyst sure thinks so. But before we talk about that, guys, I want to shout out the affiliate partner for today's video, Green Gridiron Helmets. Use code DENSYN, DENSYN, link in the description below to save off your first purchase on authentic NFL helmets, from small replicas like this one to full-size authentic helmets. Again, that is code DENSYN, link in the description down below to save off your first purchase from Green Gridiron Helmets. Thank you so much to them. And now back to your regularly scheduled content. The topic of conversation here in the Mile High City has been, how can the Denver Broncos upgrade their lackluster run game? The Denver Broncos have not had a 100-yard rusher since Sean Payton arrived as head coach, and there are a lot of different layers, in my opinion, to that problem. The first one being inconsistent personnel in the running back room. Javonte Williams with his injury, Jaleel McLaughlin, Audric Estime, good role players, but probably not starting back material in the NFL. Then there's also the layer of the lackluster run blocking, in particular from the center position. All of these things are sort of holding back the true potential of this Denver Broncos run game. And also, the big problem is you just don't have a true number one back, and that's something that I'm hoping gets resolved this offseason, as is pretty much everybody here in Broncos country. A lot of people in Denver want the Denver Broncos to take the top running back in this year's draft class, Ashton Jeanty, with their first round draft pick. But with where the Denver Broncos are drafting at number 20 overall, the likelihood is low that Jeanty is actually going to fall to that spot. Based on conversations that I had down in Texas at the Shrine Bowl, the Denver Broncos most likely would have to trade up as high as the 12th overall pick in order to secure Ashton Jeanty. He's probably not going to fall much further than that. But there are some mock drafts out there that actually do have Ashton Jeanty falling past the Dallas Cowboys at number 12, where I'm pretty confident he's ultimately going to go. Ashton Jeanty just sounds like a Jerry Jones draft pick through and through. But let's say that Jeanty does slip through the cracks and he does fall to the Denver Broncos at number 20. I'm pretty confident in that scenario the Denver Broncos would happily take Ashton Jeanty, call it a day, and move forward. I think the Denver Broncos really like Ashton Jeanty. I don't know that for sure, but based on information that I've heard through the grapevine, I do think the Denver Broncos really, really like Ashton Jeanty. But let's go ahead and take a look at Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft here. This is his mock draft 2.0. And we scroll all the way down here to the 20th overall pick, and Ashton Jeanty ended up slipping through the cracks, and the Denver Broncos instead go with Colston Loveland, the tight end out of Michigan. I love Loveland, no pun intended. I think Loveland would be an excellent fit for the Denver Broncos. I think that he could fill that joker role that Sean Payton keeps talking about. Obviously, so could Jeanty. So the conversation then becomes, should the Denver Broncos pass on the best running back in this class, maybe even the best player in this class, according to some analysts, for Colston Loveland, who is the consensus tight end 2 right now behind Tyler Warren? There is no scenario whatsoever where Tyler Warren is going to fall to number 20, and I've even heard there's not going to be a lot of scenarios where Colston Loveland falls to number 20. But if it does play out like this, and the Denver Broncos were to pass on Jeanty, I know a lot of people in Broncos country would be upset. I know that a lot of people would think that they are passing on a potentially generational player. Do I think Jeanty's a generational player? No, I personally do not. But I do think that Colston Loveland could be an excellent fit. So I'm actually a proponent of this. I actually think that Colston Loveland would fill a more immediate need for this team at the tight end position. There's also a couple other things that we have to factor in here as well. What did the Denver Broncos do in free agency? I have talked about that this offseason, the Broncos should fill their most immediate needs: tight end, running back, inside linebacker. All of those needs should be filled in free agency. That way, when the draft comes, you're free to take best player available. So maybe that's what they're factoring in here, but that would obviously lend itself more to taking Jeanty. who would have they signed at running back? Would they have brought in Aaron Jones? Would they have brought in maybe a Najee Harris? I don't know. Those are all things that you have to factor in here. There's not a lot of free agent tight ends out there that really whelm me. I don't think that Jawan Johnson is that great of a tight end, if we're being honest. David Njoku would be my top target if we were able to maybe trade for him. But in terms of free agent tight ends, I think Mike Gesicki goes back to Cincinnati. So, I don't know, man. It's just tough. It really is. I think Colston Loveland would be your best value pick here in this given scenario. And yeah, I could be endorsive of passing on Ashton Jeanty. You look at some of the other backs that are going to be available in the draft. Omarion Hampton is one name that immediately comes to mind, but if we look at this mock draft here, not Bucky Brooks, Daniel Jeremiah has him actually going to the Chargers at pick 22, so he would be gone as well. But there are some other names: Cam Scadaboo, Dylan Sampson, Caleb Johnson, Travion Henderson, and Crenshaw Judkins, the two Ohio State backs. Devin Neal, that's been a very popular name here in Broncos country, and there's some names toward the end of the draft that I actually think could end up being starting caliber players. Damian Martinez, Brashard Smith, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. So this is a loaded running back class. It really is. It's also a loaded tight end class. Elijah Arroyo actually, I think, compares pretty similarly to Colston Loveland. So if they were to take Jeanty and maybe bank on hopefully getting Elijah Arroyo in the second round, I can understand doing that as well. So I don't hate that scenario. This is just such a loaded running back class that I feel like tight end would be the higher value pick here as opposed to running back. Again, this conversation is probably moot because when we actually get to draft night, there's no way Jeanty is going to be available for the Broncos at 20. Tyler Warren's definitely not going to be there. I believe he went to Indianapolis in this mock. No, he did not. Where did he go? He went all the way up at 7. That is pretty much in line with what I'm hearing, that Tyler Warren's going to be a top 10 pick. So, yeah, man, he's not going to be available. And there are even scenarios out there where Colston Loveland isn't going to be available as well. The Denver Broncos might be looking more at a trade back scenario and maybe adding talent at running back and tight end a little bit later on, and maybe prioritizing defensive line, for example, in the first round. All right, Broncos country, let me know in the comment section below. How would you guys feel if Ashton Jeanty were available for the taking for the Denver Broncos and they passed on him? Drop those comments down below, guys. I would love to hear your thoughts, as always. Be sure to leave a like on this video, as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. I would really appreciate it, guys. Those are both free and easy ways to show your support. Helps tell YouTube's algorithm to push us out, and it helps us get seen by more and more members of Broncos country, just like you and me. And until next time, guys, I'm your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.